you know, Pebble Motorola. I figured that would be pretty cool. So, LIOR, tell me, I know you got some stuff you want to tell us. So, tell me a little bit about Motorola and how you guys came about making this amazing device.
You know, I think a lot of folks thinking about Motorola, wearables, you know, why are we doing that? And for us, our mission was always, first and foremost, to really connect users with the things they want to do, and really reduce that friction, that gap between intention and action as small as possible. So trying to make that easier, faster, cheaper or more affordable with our line of new phones. And throughout the last decade, but even more so in the last 2-3 years, we've really focused on that, reducing all of that friction, taking all of that away, because things are still too complex. So, you know, stuff we've done on the phones like touchless control and the ability to talk to your phone all the time, stuff we've done like active display, the ability to actually see notifications without having to turn your phone off or on, are really important. And when we looked at phones today, they're still too complicated, right? I'll share 2 facts maybe.
Yeah, we're there too. I mean, obviously, you know, we were like, we need to simplify this somehow and make Pebble. But so how, like, how did it happen to jump from like, okay, we're phone experts, you know, you guys have been doing this forever, to like, okay, we're actually going to do a smartwatch?
I think we really wanted to, first and foremost, solve those pain points, right? We look at our phones, and just to share maybe 2 facts on phones, we're still getting this out of our pocket more than 100 times a day. More than 100 times a day, doing this gesture, getting this out. When we're getting this out, more than 60% of the time, we spend less than 30 seconds with it. Yeah. So all we're doing is basically trying to find it in our pocket, pulling it out, unlocking, doing something super quick. Most of the time we're actually checking the time or checking a buzz or checking a message, and we put it back in our pocket. That's a lot of friction for a very simple operation.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, we're doing notifications. I know Android Wear and Moto 360 will do that. You know, what else are you bringing to the table? So
that's sort of what started some of the inspiration, and then so we've been investing a lot in wearables in the last couple of years, and we really thought about what to do next. And I think the first decision point, and probably the most important one, was what are we actually trying to create? And there were 2 paths. We could have created a phone on a wrist or a smartwatch or whatever you want to call that, or we thought it might be better to actually create a watch. And that was the design intent. We actually wanted to create a watch, not necessarily a smartwatch. First and foremost, let's create a watch.
So you sound like Eric. My boss, Eric, CEO of Pebble, basically said the same, you know, make a watch, add some stuff to it. So, you know, what made you decide to go the direction you went, basically?
So when you start thinking about a watch and start looking around, and it's sort of stating the obvious, but it did require some reflection and observation. If you look throughout history, watches are circles. If you look at the ancient sundial, if you look at the pocket watch, if you look at the wristwatch, if you look at even, you know, how you tell time today in public places, in train station, for some mysterious reason, those are all circles. More than 80% of the watches sold today on the market are circles, they're round. So that was the realization, and then, you know, when we ask kids to just draw watches, we've assembled, 50 kids and asked them to draw a watch. All of them draw a circle. That's our mental imprint, that's what we expect to actually see in a watch. So that was the important second choice. We decided that we're doing a watch, and to really do a watch, it has to be round, and we just can't compromise, and we wouldn't want to release anything that doesn't really stand up to that challenge.
So, you know, Pebble did a premium watch. We call it our premium watch, Pebble Steel, right? I mean, we heard our customers who said, well, we love the plastic, but the plastic came from a Kickstarter, basically. How do we make a watch? Plastic's easy, let's do a watch out of plastic. But of course, with the new users, it was like, well, we want something a little classier. Like, I'm dressed up pretty nice, I want, this works well. So obviously, your product is really premium as well. What kind of made you decide, let's go premium versus, you can go round and cheap, right? So, not cheap, but affordable. So, tell me about that.
I think, I was here yesterday, we kept mentioning how hardware is hard. That's the hard in hardware. I think it's important to also remember that wearables are about wearing stuff. That's the essence, core essence of wearables. We talk about wearables, but in the end of the day, those are conscious choices that consumers are making to actually put something on us when we wake up in the morning. And the way we think about it, it's not part of our tech gadget assortment, it's part of our wardrobe. And when I wake up in the morning, I have to make this conscious choice to put something on me.
Right.
And as such, we wanted to go all in, make something that looks great, make something that is round, make something that is not compromising on materials, stainless steel, leather that is real leather, that is genuine, all the materials that has to do with the watch, the small details, the button, the craftsmanship, everything that make it look like something you want to wear.
So it's going to be affordable, right?
Of course.
Okay, good. Because I'm just this sounds great, but yeah.
I think we haven't released pricing yet.
I know.
We're going to do that soon. But if you look at the strategy and what we've done in the last 2 years for Motorola, we want to have that breakthrough innovation, and we want to not compromise, but we also want to offer that at an affordable price to really push the envelope, to really have adoption, to really gain access to all those consumers that want to try with the latest and the greatest. So I think it's safe to say we're aiming for an affordable price, even though this is a classic timepiece with very high-end.
But you're seeing this as a premium product, right? You're seeing this as a premium product.
I think initially, and I think if you think about the fashion category, which I believe we're at, and we're trying to make those decisions based on, first and foremost, thinking about fashion, about what you wear, about really that market, less about tech first and foremost. If you think about that, we want to start with positioning something that is premium, something that really feels like a very special creation, but still make it affordable.
So, what do you think about talking a little bit more about the future? Does that titillate you in some way?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things I want to talk about, I touched on yesterday on the stage a little bit, was apps and ecosystems and platforms. And us at Pebble, obviously we made this watch and it's waterproof and battery life is great, it's easy to use. We made some decision around the hardware for that, but mostly it's about a platform, it's about an ecosystem, it's about developers, it's about basically creating an entire open platform. So we made an app store, but it's really challenging, as you know, right? Because in our case, we're trying to be cross-platform, and as I said yesterday, apps are really not just one binary on one device. It's multiple binaries on multiple devices often, like our Pandora app is a good example. It runs on the phone, it runs on the watch, there's also a cloud component. How do you think we're going to resolve this? Because, obviously we can go all in like you did. You chose an ecosystem that already existed, Android. But what if, that's not necessarily going to work for everyone. People might want to change platforms and keep their wearables. So how do we make this happen? How do we take apps, or are they even apps? Are they called something else? Are they experiences now?
I think that's the million-dollar question. We're all here in this room because we're excited about the category. We want to make it happen. And I think the most important question in the next 12, 24 months would be that. I think we're now at the point where we can create something that people want to wear, that get that wow moment, that people can actually choose to put devices on them. We got to the point where technology is mature with battery life and other stuff where it's not a determinant, and it's really about the functionality. And I think the first question to ask is, and I would love to hear your thing as well. I think you have pretty solid opinions there. Is, what is the benefit, the functionality, the killer use case that we hope to get out of those devices? And
right, that's a good question. I think for me, the way I look at it is, I want to keep it simple. It's all about the user experience, right? Like, I mean, obviously hardware, I'm a sucker for good hardware, really beautiful, you know, high spec products, you know, I like a refined, high-end product. But at the same time, none of that matters if it's not usable, right? If it's just a pain in the butt, then you don't want to use it. So what I was going to say with that is that if you try to simplify, when you start to simplify, you start, you know, removing stuff purposely to get a better user experience. And a lot of people ask us, why don't you put like more sensors on your device? I mean, obviously some of them are pretty easy, like accelerometers are a dime a dozen, they're super affordable, they don't have any major limitations in installing on the device in terms of location, etc. But others, like, you know, heart rate monitors, blood sensors and stuff are much harder to deal with, and we made the purpose choice, and obviously I don't think you have a heart rate monitor on Moto 360 either. We made the decision not to do that because we think that ultimately you're going to be carrying multiple wearables on your body that all have a specific purpose, and maybe some of them you wear all the time, like your watch. Like you might sleep with your watch. You don't sleep with your phone, hopefully, in your pocket, but you might sleep with your watch, right? But then if you have a second band that has all the sports sensors on it, the health sensors, you can wear it for an hour while you're jogging.
So yeah, I agree. I'll tell you what I'm excited about in the next 12 months. I think, you know, wave one is all about notifications, getting that use case, solving that pain point. I think, you know, we keep talking about what is the killer use case. What I'm excited about and sort of using the device for the past few weeks and using other devices before and really immersing myself in using everything is I'm not sure if it's such a Boolean black and white answer. Here's the killer use case.
Right, no, there's no such thing.
I think it's striking a balance in the end of the day. When I put this on me, do I have enough value? Am I happy enough? Are there enough magic moments in my life that cause me to keep this on me and be excited? I'll give you examples of just 3 magic moments that happened to me personally just in the last 2 weeks. One is I'm sitting on the couch, I think last Sunday in my living room, minding my own business, doing work or emails, when I hear a slight buzz, looking at my Moto 360 and seeing Game of Thrones starting in 27 minutes. Google knew that I'm searching for Game of Thrones, I'm a fan, I was completely immersed in doing something else. That buzz and a glance, which I would never do with my phone in the kitchen or even in my pocket, that 1 second glance actually caused me to change my behavior. I tune in and watch the episode, which I would have forgot if I wouldn't. One example. Another example.
I was going to say, welcome to my life for the last year and a half. But you know, I mean, you know this. You're a big Pebble fan. I know you've worn Pebble before, so you know. But it's the more you can add. That's just as you said, like tiny moments of awesome. That's what we call it at Pebble. It's like we actually trademarked that. Don't worry. But no, I'm kidding. But tiny moments of awesome, like basically putting that experience on your wrist that just brings it up one more level, right? Like it wasn't just because, I mean, it was glanceable, it was inobtrusive, you didn't have to pull out your phone, but it was something that mattered to you. And so that brings in context, right? Context is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. And with that context that we'll bring to the table with the sensors and the platform, I think there's a potential for many more of those magic moments to happen. And I think for the guys in the room, how many are actually developers? So few. I think, you know, if I was a developer nowadays, I will go all in on developing wearable apps for a wearable platform. I think the platforms, and I say plural, the platforms are there.
Yeah.
The technology and the products are there. There's market alignment, meaning if I look through our discussions with distribution partners and with retail partners, they're going to push this category super heavily because they want that to succeed and they see that as the next computing platform and the next thing they can actually sell and really create a much more exciting experience in stores. So I think you're going to see wide distribution for a lot of those products, and I think there's going to be an early mover advantage. I think companies like Google, like Apple, when and if they move, other folks, they're going to not go all in, really give a enough space for developers in the platform to flourish, and we're going to see a couple of those developers hitting on killer use cases given the distribution, the assortment, the products, and they'll be able to actually sort of break through the noise and create substantial long-term businesses, which are very hard to do now on mobile phones. So I'm very excited and psyched about what we'll see out of developers in the next year.
For sure, I think developers, are a huge part. Obviously, for us at Pebble, we've, always from day one had an SDK, open platform. Anyone can sign up and become a dev. It matters to us. We have 15,000 developers, over 3,000 apps in the App Store. I'll throw more numbers at you. You probably already know that we have like 400,000 plus watches on wrists, which isn't pretty impressive considering we've only been doing this for a couple of years. And but back to what we're saying, experience. It's all about the experience. So here's a question for you. One of the things we're doing is, and again, it's back to this talk. Where's the boundary of app begin and end? Because right now, from what I see, a lot of wearables are companion devices. Ours is as well. So notifications come from a phone, etc. But there are a few apps on Pebble now that are standalone. Like you can literally, go in the middle of the desert with no signal, with just your Pebble, and play a video game on your Pebble. Or you can, like have a pedometer running on your Pebble without an internet connection and just keep track of things. So do you think there's room for that as well? And how do you, in terms of user experience, how do you make that seamless? Because obviously, you don't want the user to have to worry about it. But right now, we don't really have mechanisms in place that make this really seamless.
I think that's a great question. A few things. First of all, I think the terminology of apps might be a bit misleading.
Yes,
I think the trend that we're seeing is we started from the all-encompassing web portal. We moved to the all-encompassing mobile app that had the kitchen sink and 15 use cases in it. We're now in the phase of unbundling mobile apps to very discrete use cases, and you see Google doing that, and Facebook and everyone really sort of there's an app for that. When you move to Wearable, where the friction, when the sort of duration of interaction is even not that 30-20 seconds, it's really that second or two. It's no longer an app. I don't have to even be mindful of, I need this app now, so let me open that. It's really that sort of moment in time, that sort of card in the stream, that intention that is sort of, raising up, bubbling up, I'm glancing at it and then bubbling down. So it's really a discrete set of events in my life that are highly contextual, and the app, or what we knew as the app, is really translated to that, sort of a discrete set of events. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the way to think about that. I think again, to my point, this will offer a lot of exciting developer options to really reimagine what a wearable, again, app is the wrong word, will look like. To a question about offline, I think there's huge value in offline, even if I'm not connected, for various use cases, and I think we'll see a lot of innovation there as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, speaking of context, what do you think, obviously context is a major part of this experience, right? And right now, a lot of it is connected to the cloud, right? You're gathering data locally and you're basically sending it, like storing it somewhere so that you can learn what the person's doing. And so this goes back to how do you make this work when you don't necessarily have that connection, or when you're in an airplane, probably in the future will be less of an issue because we'll all have internet on planes. But right now, today, it's not always the case, at least on long flights. So how do you get that context, And so, what do you think we can do there? Do you think it's to me, it's in the same way as there's tiered apps, there's app on the watch, app on the phone, app in the cloud, and they all work together. To me, there's tiered context. There's a context on the watch, so you can do some very simple stuff knowing what's stored in the watch. And then there's some stuff on the phone, and then some stuff in the cloud, and you put it all together.
It is a continuum of usage. I do fast, quick stuff on my watch, and then if I want to actually start typing stuff, I'll seamlessly move that to my phone, and if I want to move to longer browsing, I'll move that to my
So
I do think it's a continuum of
to move forward, since we have to wrap up, to move forward, we need, obviously, developers, and we need user experience specialists that start thinking about wearables, all platforms. What would you say to them? What's your advice in order to make this experience seamless? So far, as a user and somebody who's working on a product, share with me what you think we should do.
I think to recap, I think the time is now. I think you guys done a great job with steel. I think what we're doing with Model 360, what others will hopefully do, will cause those devices to really be something I want to put on myself. I woke up this morning, I made a conscious choice of putting my Model 360 on me. Because it actually, I feel that it's actually sort of making me cool, and it's part of my wardrobe, and I look better by actually just putting it before even the functionality. So that's enough for the tease.
That's it?
Can't do more.
That's all the tease we're getting. I'm not really teasing you or anything other than this cool band that I'm wearing.
So I think the time is now. I think the platform will be ready. I think it is a time for people to actually experiment and do creative things. I would encourage people to not think about it as yet another mobile app transformed to a smaller screen. The whole purpose of doing Android Wear or doing wearable platforms are really to do something that fits to a super small form factor with a super small screen and a very glanceable UI. So I think the tools will be there, and what we need is people imagination across designers and app developers to really reimagine what that would look like. And I think you guys should go and do that now.
Yeah, the last thing I would add is I want you to think about active versus passive. I don't want my wearable experience to always just be passive. Glancing is nice, but I need to be able to action on things, and I need to be able to initiate things from my wearable as well. I think we should wrap it up. We're 2 minutes over time, but thanks all for joining us. Thank you, LIOR, for being awesome on stage. It's a pleasure.
Same here. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.